Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. We are busy with the third video for the Dutch defense, and this is covering the Stonewall Dutch. As I said in the last one, this was the first opening with the black pieces that I learned to combat 1d4. Now, I'm not as emotional about it as I am the French defense, because I don't play it anymore. It stopped working for me, but it is a very, very effective tool, particularly the Stonewall. How did we get to this setup? Well, firstly, what is a Stonewall? This structure here, and you can even add in C6, is the Stonewall setup. You can even play this with the white pieces. For example, if we go all the way back and you play like D4 and we get knight f6, you can play a Stonewall with white. Obviously, this move order is not exactly accurate, but you can play a Stonewall with white. Castles and bishop d3. And what it is nice about it is, if we go all the way back, and we flip the board back over, and we go back to the position that we had, yes, you surrender this hole on e5, but you create a huge stronghold on the move e4. White never gets e4, or they shouldn't. If white gets e4, something's gone wrong. Now, they may chop here, and get... they might take on d5, and you can take back. If you play c6, you can also take back. I always recommend taking with the e-pawn because then you get the open e-file to use for your rook or your queen. Remember that queen e8 move we discovered in the last video? Still useful here, where you can play queen e8 and it puts pressure on the e-file, but you can also go to g6 and to h5. How we got here is, of course, we had d4, f5. As I tell you for the third time, the Dutch defense is played against 1d4 or 1c4. If you really want to, and I suppose you can play it against knight f3. We get c4, knight to f6, and now g3. And once again, we're not doing the Leningrad with g6, bishop g7. We're going for d6, similar to the classical. The classical and the Stonewall go hand in hand. They're very close together. So we have bishop g2, bishop e7. You might say, hang on, why is no one developing knights? Well, your queenside for black is very hard to develop. It just is. White is very quick to develop this bishop, so you can't be as quick. Unless you play f5 and your next move is like g6, but even then you might be too slow, because white doesn't have to invest in c4. Their second move could be g3. So you're a bit slower to put these queenside pieces to use, but once you get them in the game, you'll have a good position. So knight to f3, short castles, and now here the move d5. You can play d5 earlier, particularly if they haven't played c4 and you just get a free-handed d5. If you want to go for the Stonewall, this is perfectly fine. Now, the main move chosen here by white is b3. We've seen this several times, looking to fianchetto the bishop. This is going to be their open diagonal, if they can get the pawn to move. You here play c6. You commit to this move simply because if they ever take, well, in this position, c takes d5 is perfectly fine. But even as I said, e takes, it does kind of leave this pawn a bit weak, but you have the open e-file. You have a semi-open e-file to work with. No games in the database, though. You won't see this. Now, queen c2 is the top engine move. However, the top move by theory is the incredible bishop to a3. Because this bishop, this dark squared bishop for black, is the perfect piece. Why? Because you put all your pawns on light squares. I wouldn't recommend the move g6, by the way. You've put all of your pawns on light squares, so your dark squared bishop would have been very, very powerful. So it makes sense for white to trade it. So the top move by theory is bishop takes a3. However, knight bd7 is perfectly fine. Make them take you. And even then, they can still wait and play like queen c2. But if they take, you just take back with the queen. You're perfectly fine. And now they might play like e3 and just be really solid. You can put your knight now on e4. That's why I always recommend putting the knight first, because he's going to go follow his buddy, and they're both going to occupy e4. And maybe if you want to put the knight on g4. Now, queen c2. We've got no games in the database, so we're going to go back and check where we deviated from theory. So here, knight bd2 is played. Queen c2 is played, but only in 3 games. I've only got 26 games from this position. But just in the general Stonewall, after d5, 574 in the Masters database from this position. Of course, we don't have to get to this position exactly, because white might not play the move c4. At lower levels, people don't play c4. They play like knight f3. and then you play knight f6, and they might go for like a London. As we've mentioned in the first video, you can get a London, and then, you know, you can still go for your Stonewall stuff. You can still go for your Stonewall stuff against the London system, and you're perfectly fine. You're perfectly fine and solid. And again, you know, you've got queen e8, queen coming out this side. In fact, the Stonewall against the London is very, very good. I mean, there's one master game in here from 1999, two decently strong players. The move went 94 and they made a draw. But again, the Stonewall is super, super solid. I would recommend staying to the main move order, and white will probably play c4 at most top levels. So just the main line is b3, c6. As I said, bishop to a3. And now here is where everything deviates. Bishop takes a3 is the main move by theory. So if we follow the main theory, this is what we get. And now queen e7. And now the knight comes, now we get queen c1. And this seems to be how play develops. And I mean, if you're looking at the top games, you've got Pierre Kramling in there against Lars Carlsen from 2006, making a draw in this opening. So it has been played by top players. You know, there are some games that you can go into and look at. If we look at just the Lichess database, the whole Lichess database, we've got 1,800 games in here. And it scores decently well for black. 36% is not terrible. 57% for white, so you can tell white does get some stuff going. But hey, it's not dreadful, and it is very solid. Once this takes, if it ever takes, on e4, you've got an open rook. Your queen can still get out this way. The only problem you have, and this is a problem you have in the French as well, is this bishop on c8. What do you do with it? I mean, bishop d7 and trying to trade it is perfectly ideal. I've even tried ways with like b6 and bishop b7. Particularly in the Stonewall, because you've got a lot of pawns on here, you can get away with this. Or even if the bishop doesn't fianchetto, you just do the same idea the white just had, and you play like bishop a6, and you look to trade it off. So the Stonewall, very, very flexible. Of course, you are always surrendering this hole. Like, if we just go back, you are, of course, always surrendering this hole on e5. But knight bd7, and you'll be pretty happy. And then here, white can lock in like f4, and then you're just going to have to play this structure, which is pretty locked. So your bishops are no good. And then light squared bishop will probably always be better than your light squared bishop. So if you can avoid the trade of dark squared bishops, that would be great. So, you know, b6, c5, if you want to build up that way. But yeah, this is how the game could go. Of course, another move for them just in this position is like knight d3, going backwards. Interesting. Anyway, that is the Stonewall Dutch. It's an interesting position. You get a real clamp on e4, and it is very, very dynamic, I promise. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of the video. We will do the Staunton Gambit tomorrow. We shall do the Staunton Gambit tomorrow. And then, yeah, that'll be the end of the Dutch defense. I hope you enjoyed the series and you're enjoying the videos and you're finding them helpful. Anyway, cheers.